It's official now, I guess, right?
Cat's out of the bag, Julie. There's no going back at this point.
All right, so the words Mark is retiring is kind of weird to say. I like to think of it as Mark's next chapter. How do you
I
like to
like
think of
that.
it?
Yeah, I like that because anybody who knows me knows I'm not going to be that guy on the couch watching golf every day or something. I'm going to do something. I haven't quite defined it yet, just kind of putting it out in the universe. Like, I just want to do something different, 43 years at one station, and it gets to be a long haul, and I just want to experience life outside of Channel 2.
There is so much more to life outside of Channel 2, but you said it, 43 years. Let's go back to the very beginning. That's
Oh.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
What inspired you? What's the reason that the young Mark Ibanez decided to get into sports broadcasting?
Well, I didn't come from a sports-oriented family at all. I didn't know anything about sports until I was in the 6th grade. And I won free tickets through my paper route in San Rafael to a game, and I had no interest in going to this Giants game, right? And so my buddies with the paper route, they were all going. They're like, come on, go, And so they loaded us all up on a bus and took us to a Giants game on a Friday night. And I'm telling you, it was like a whole new world opened up for me. I'll never forget the bright green grass, and they were playing the St. Louis Cardinals, bright red uniforms, and just the smell of, at that time, cigars and stale beer and hot dogs. And it just, as a little 6th grader, it just captivated me. I'm like, there's a whole world out here. And so 10 minutes in, I nudged my buddy, Danny, lifelong friend, still buddies with him today, and I said, who's that guy? He goes, that's Willie Mays, you idiot, and I'm like, oh, and I was, the way he moved, the way everything, like he was so obviously a star, and it just like getting hit with a thunderbolt. I just fell in love with baseball. I became that nerd kid with the transistor radio in my ear and couldn't get enough about Willie Mays, and I just fell in love with baseball. And when that season ended, I'm like, wow, maybe football is this cool. Maybe basketball is this cool. And I became like a sports maniac. And my parents were like, what's going on here? What's up with him?
That is such a great story. And whenever someone asks me what's it like to work with Mark, I say he has so many great stories. After 43 years in the business, we're going to talk about that in a minute, some of your stories. But when you first landed the job at KTVU, what was it like to walk through the doors and say, I'm going to be working here at Channel 2?
Full on intimidating. I mean, you walk in the door, and at that time, those were like the real golden years of Channel 2, and I would be remiss if I didn't start with Dennis Richmond, and such an intimidating figure at that time, and he was the anchor, right? And I kept thinking, I'd be over at my little sports desk, and I hadn't talked to him yet, and I'm trying to think of ideas like, how can I break the ice and talk to Dennis Richmond, And then, at that time, Elaine Corral and Barbara Simpson and Claude Mann and George Watson and Pat McCormick was an iconic figure in the Bay Area from Dialing for Dollars and The Afternoon Movie. And I just remember thinking, I'm just going to lay low, keep my mouth shut, and hope that my work speaks for itself. And I was just the weekend guy, but they brought me in to kind of see how things operated during the week to get acclimated. And then the first time I ever was asked to do sports during the week and be on the set with Dennis and Elaine and Pat McCormick and Barbara Simpson, it was like almost a surreal, like out-of-body experience, because there's nervous, and then there's like something beyond that. Like I was way too nervous, like to be able to speak.
Well, something obviously worked out pretty darn well. You've endured. It's rare to be in one town, one station for so many years. You've done it for 43 years. When you look back over all that time and think back, you've covered some of the most amazing moments in sports. And the Bay Area is a rich sports town.
Right.
So much
underrated sports town. It's
so
really
much
big.
history here. Does anything rise to the top as one of the greatest moments in your career of covering sports here in the Bay Area?
Well, you hit it on it, Julie. First of all, I lucked out so bad to be in the golden era of sports. I started here in '79, and the 49ers are ready to embark on their dynasty. And then 5 Super Bowls. The Raiders won a Super Bowl, I believe, in 1980. The Warriors won 3 championships. The Giants won 3 World Series in 5 years. The A's won a World Series. We had the earthquake right in the middle of one World Series in '89. So many iconic moments. And when I think about, prior to 9/11, they used to let us on the field. I mean, and watch the games from that perspective. I was literally 20 yards away from Dwight Clark when he made the catch, and all those kind of things resonate. I was at the Cal-Stanford big game when they ran through the band and the unbelievable finish. And you couldn't ask for a better time period to be a sports guy. Just truly the golden era in the Bay Area. Truly fortunate.
Yeah, to have that access, kind of that front row seat to sports history and some of the greatest moments in sports here in the Bay Area.
Right.
What about when it comes to players? You've met so many players, so many different personalities, so many different egos. When it comes to interviews, what would you say are your top 3-4 interviews in your career?
Well, I think number one at the top of the list, I mentioned Willie Mays, my boyhood hero and a half. Getting to interview him, I believe it was for his 80th birthday. We sat down with him for an hour, and it was almost, again, surreal to be able to talk to your boyhood hero, and I had gotten to know him. And just a quick story, another thing, Willie Mays used to take batting practice into his 50s down in Arizona, and I was down there at spring training, and I'm thinking, there's Willie Mays, and he's standing by the batting cage, but he was in his street clothes. And I'm thinking, how can I introduce myself to Willie Mays, and talk to him? I was scared, and I went up to him and I just said, Mr. Mays, you don't take batting practice anymore? And he said, no, my cataracts really bother me. I can't do that anymore. And I said, oh, just like Kitty Cat, huh? And he goes, what do you mean? How do you know Kitty Cat? And that was his dad's nickname, who played in the Negro leagues in the South growing up, and he had such great reflexes that they called him Kitty Cat. And he kind of like, how do you know? And I said, well, I've read about 3 or 4 biographies of yours. And he said, come on, he's had so many people come up and say, I followed you, and he kind of puts you through a test. He goes, oh, so you followed my career, huh? And I said, yeah, in fact, I was at the game where you got your 3,000th hit. And he literally said, oh, really? Where'd my hit go? And I go, oh, between third and shortstop. It was a single to left field. And he goes, and he said, well, who were we playing? And I said, the Montreal Expos. And he kind of like, he goes, oh, okay. Yeah, and he goes, who was the pitcher? And I go, I don't remember, Willie. And he goes, Mark, you should know that. And what struck me first is he said my name. He goes, I'm thinking, Willie Mays knew my name? And I go, that blurted out, I go, you know my name? And he goes, I watch the 49er post-game shows, and that is a highlight in so many ways. And once he realized that I really did know about his life and his career, and I was a true fan, he opens up a new world to me. He invited me to his house, told me stories, and just priceless stuff. And we still have a rapport today. And that's my number one, and everything else kind of
hard to top that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Along with Willie Mays, there have been others. Who else comes to the top?
I developed a really good rapport with Ronnie Lott, because we did the post-game show for years after the games, after he retired. And I truly got to not only make and develop a friendship with him, but understand who I believe, to me, is the most fierce competitor I ever met, and to understand the mindset of someone who is so determined to succeed, not only individually, but as a team. And he really made me understand what winning and competition and that complete devotion was about and how you lead your life. Like to this day, Ronnie Lott, you can ask anybody who knows him, integrity and the way he lives his life, true to himself with no apologies. And I really admired that. And he's up there. And then Dusty Baker, manager of the Giants during some great years. And what I admired about Dusty was his ability to relate to people of all different kinds and interests. Like he wasn't just baseball focused. He could talk to you about music, about movies. I mean, he took me, to a John Lee Hooker concert down in Scottsdale one spring training because he wanted me to know more about the blues, and things like that. And once these guys understand that you too, you can't play the game like we did, but your passion is there. And once they realize that about you and understand that you know about the history, they open up a world that I feel like very few people get to experience because their stories are just unbelievable about the inner workings of, in particular, professional sports. It's been beyond a boyhood dream come true for me.
To be able to meet all these different people.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, then give me a name or a short answer.
Okay. That's hard for me.
Sorry,
I was never good at taking
Short
time
answers,
cues,
I
Julie.
know. Okay, really quickly. Out of all the sports players, sports stars, most fun to go sit down at a bar with, shoot the breeze, and have a beer?
Chris Mullin, a former Warrior, he and I just hit it off. He's got great stories. And, as I told him I was calling it quits, he said one of the most amazing things to me that I'd never really thought about, it just came naturally, said, athletes get along with you because they trust you. They know you're never going to take a cheap shot, and anything you say that might be negative is at least fairly balanced. And he goes, that's one of the reasons why, we were sitting down having a cup of coffee, together. And he's just got so many stories about the way he grew up back east and the early stages of his career and how the NBA has changed. He told me when he was the top draft pick of the Warriors, he flew into town and nobody was there to greet him. And he flew commercial. And, this is Chris Mullin, great college star out of St. John's. And he said he didn't have a hotel reservation made for him, nothing. He goes, these guys today, they've got their wine dined and taken care of, private jets, all that. And when you see how sports has changed and he gives you that perspective, it's pretty amazing.
Out of all the things you've done and all the games and championships and Super Bowls, is there one thing that you've always wanted to do and didn't get a chance to do when it comes to sports?
Yeah, I think it's always kind of stuck in my craw that I never got to cover an Olympics. Never got to go to an Olympics because they were always on a different network, right? And then I think Fox has them in the not too distant future. I'm like, geez.
Maybe a special reappearance.
Yeah, but that's the thing, just to see globally the athletes,
The stories, the connections, the people you've met along the way. When it comes to an end and you walk out the doors here at Channel 2, KTVU, after 43 years, what is the thing you're going to miss the most about being here?
Without a doubt, the people. And I always hear athletes when they retire. I remember Joe Montana saying, he loved the game of football and there's no substitute for the adrenaline rush of 55,000 people screaming for you and running onto that football field. But he said he truly missed the locker room, the camaraderie with the guys. And Julie, you've walked by, in terror at the sports department when we're screaming and yelling. And to me, those football Sundays when we have the big screen on and a pizza, and we're all yelling at the game and the other guys, the producers and, Joe Fonzie, and we're all yelling at the game. And those moments and being out on the set with you guys and the adrenaline that you get from being on live television, knowing people, it always cracks me up. They always go, what time do you guys tape that 10 o'clock news? I'm like, it's not taped. It's live. All the mistakes you've seen us make, they're live, and we own them. And I think that some people are not cut out for that live deadline every night. And I knew right away that I loved it, because I was always a procrastinator in school. Give me 3 months to write a term paper. I'm writing it on the last day, pulling an all-nighter. And so this job was perfect, always having those deadlines.
And what a lot of people don't realize is that you did it all these years without any scripts. You just had little chicken scratch little notes along the way and did it flawlessly night after night after night. What is one of the stories that you are probably, or moments in sports history that you are most proud of covering?
I think that for me, because baseball was my first love, and the San Francisco Giants, I just kind of felt like they're never going to win a World Series when I'm alive. I was born in '55. Their last World Series was 1954, and it was all the way until 2010 until they won it. And I just remember being on the air that night when they clinched it, and it was just a euphoric feeling. And I remember driving home that night and calling my mom and saying, Mom, I'm a grown man with 4 kids. Why do I care this much about baseball? And she just said, it's because you loved it since you were a little kid, and you always were frustrated because the Giants would never win. And it was like this impossible dream they would never attain. And then finally they get it. And it just felt like this relief, like, I don't care if they ever win another game. I finally got a World Series. And just being able to report on the air that night that they actually did it, and being live, and we were on right after the game ended. So being that close to it was just like, just a real rush.
A loud moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of people want to know, they're used to seeing you every night in their homes, giving them the sports, telling them what's happened during that day. When people don't see you on TV anymore, what's Mark Ibanez going to be doing? How are you going to be spending your time?
I don't know, but I'm telling you, just in the time that word's kind of gotten out, and I've been thinking this for so long, it's the viewers. They're just so nice, the people that come up to you. And I just never knew that you affect people's lives like that. And they're just so, they put up with, when I've made mistakes, and their well wishes, and just the emails and texts that I've received, just mind-boggling to me, to think that I grew up in this area. I was fortunate enough not to have to, I always said, God, if I ever got a job in LA, how would I fake being happy the Dodgers won, And then just people's support, and the things that they'll say, like, I remember meeting you, in the parking lot or whatever, and this, and the things they remember, and you don't really realize that you've had a part of people's lives. Like one woman said, I've gone to sleep every night with you between my toes, because our TV, things like that stand out. And to think that, we could have an effect, and you do, and, our team, it's mind-boggling. I love the Bay Area, and I think that's kind of been a secret to the success, is just being sincere. And no, people could tell, like, I'm irritated at the Giants because they did, I'm mad, as a fan. And I'll never apologize for being a fan, because I didn't get into it to be on TV. I got into it because I'm a sports maniac. And I think people recognize that, here. And it does choke me up, because people have been unbelievably nice to me over the years.
Any final thoughts you want to say in this interview that we're doing? It's such a strange moment.
Well, it's super cool to be doing it with you, because you've always been one of my best friends. I always feel like you understand me, and we've been on the air so long together that it's really not nerve-wracking. But I just kind of feel like it's an adventure to me. It's kind of like, after 43 years, it's like stepping off a high dive. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. but I just put it out there in the universe. It'll be something, and I just try and keep a truly positive attitude about everything, and enjoy all the moments, and not try and live too much in the past, but always respect. And I've just got so much gratitude and just unbelievable thankfulness for being able to work at the same place for so long. And I just really want to say that when I went through hard times in my life, away from work, having Channel 2 to come to every night was my second family. Just felt at ease, and just so many people here that they feel like part of my family, and that's not just some little statement. It's like these people mean a lot to me.
Well, we're going to miss you, and it's definitely bittersweet. I'm excited for you and being able to spend more time with your family and doing all the fun things. And you need to go write a book because you have so many. You've already written a book. Write another book. But congratulations!
Thanks.
So excited for you, and we are going to miss you. I'm going to miss you.
I appreciate that.
I'm excited to see though what's next.
Yeah, I don't know what, the other night I was off and I woke up, I went to bed early, and weirdly my biological clock, I woke up at 10:52 at night. Like I get this adrenaline surge, like I'm supposed to be on, I had a disoriented moment. I'm like,
that's not going to go away for a
no,
long time.
I'll miss you, Julie, and I'll miss everybody here, and that's, sincere. True.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Julie.
It's a wrap. Good job. That's good.
I'm sorry, I kind of teared up.
Will you guys do me a favor before we move? We just take a couple pictures on my